And welcome everyone to a Wednesday of Racing at Colonial Downs preview show. It's day number 21. It is the final day of the season, la finale, as the French say. Jessica, happy to be with you for this one final time, and we got a chore ahead of us. 12 races on closing day.
I would hardly call this a chore. This is a last hurrah.
Okay.
The racing office definitely made us work this last day of racing. This is a really solid competitive card.
We're going to award all of our champion jock trainer owner stuff. I think we're awarding some Virginia bred stuff because this day is
You
loaded.
say we. I'll be the one running to the winner's circle for each race.
I will introduce you. There's nothing funnier. I shouldn't say funny, but like I look down and I see Jess running from the paddock over to the winner's circle every 5 minutes on these busy days. And I'm just up there like eating sun chips and sitting in the air conditioning.
This is why Chuck Taylors have been just a game changer for me. Boy, oh boy.
Yeah. Well, Jess, it's been a lot of fun. Let's get into this final 12 race card. We start out turf sprinting, maiden claimers, and a big full field size, no shortage. And that's kind of a standard thing for closing weekends, right? Like people want to get one more run before they ship out.
Shipping money.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and especially when, hey, made 40,000, you're running for 40,000. So a good chance at some big money, but where'd you land in the opener?
I landed with number 7, A Great Affair. He was super impressive physically in his last couple of starts, and he's shown a lot of ability with, again, only a couple of starts. You see this horse and you understand why it may have taken him until, this second half of his 3-year-old season to make it to the racetrack. He is just a very big boy. And this is a step up in class, but we saw Karen Godsey do this with a winner. It was last week or the week before, too, a horse that had shown some ability, kind of conservatively spotted in these maiden races. And then it looks like she doesn't want to lose the horse, so she steps them up and they win.
It's kind of interesting that, this barn, it seemed like kind of got off to a little bit of a cold start, but you look, 2 wins from 18 starts, 11%, that's fine. But 5 second place finishes. There are a couple of turnarounds from a really, really great meet.
Absolutely. And these are horses, like we've said, that Karen doesn't really race anywhere else. So I think some of them just need to be raced fit.
Yeah. This horse surrounded by horses, I thought, kind of coming into this race in good form. China Beach for Lily Curtnitz, who just ran last week, ran decently behind Titrate, who was a favorite that kind of, if I remember right, went wire to wire. But Fred is a 10. This is the horse that got interfered with by Fred as a 10 and knocked that one back a little bit. But and then the other horse, Small Field, right to the outside, almost stole a race, got beat by Chamba. It was on the main track. Chamba was a favorite in that race, so pretty good effort by that one. I thought a fair number of ways to go, and for a maiden race, a lot of horses with kind of decent form.
Yeah, and some bright futures ahead of them, too. Yeah. I don't think this is a cheap group by any means.
No. Your picks for the opener?
7, 1, 9, and 4.
Number 9, Outworking?
Yeah.
What was it you liked about Outworking?
A little bit of class drop. Yeah. Hasn't shown much from only 3 starts. The surface switch, more than anything, seems interesting. And Mike Tomlinson, the barn's really live. Joe Rocco's, really gunning for that leading rider title. So I think if that's like a little bit of speed he has translates to the turf, maybe he's a contender. Yeah. But take a swing. Why not?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have odds, so maybe Merv made this horse the favorite.
I'm going to guess he did not. But yeah, we've been talking about Joe being a little bit selective. I think he's got 7 mounts on closing weekend. He wants to win a riding title.
Ding dong battle to the wire here.
Yeah. The second race on the card, we start our early pick 4, of course, as always. And obviously with the added races, the late stuff changes a little bit, gets moved back. So do keep an eye on when and where sequences are. And also keep an eye on track condition. We are supposed to get the remnants of Hurricane Ida, I think, showing up. It said late Tuesday into Wednesday. So hopefully it does not affect Virginia Derby Day. Hopefully it doesn't affect this day at all either.
Yeah, the weather might be a thing. Yeah. I am packing before we recorded this, so I'm packing for some wet weather just in case.
Yeah, but like I said, hopefully not till after Tuesday's big card, of course. But this is a big card because we have the Jamestown Stakes amongst other stakes.
Huge.
5.5 furlongs in this one, and I think this doesn't surprise me. We've seen this success. I mean, some first time starters, a lot of maidens, and obviously horses that are kind of looking to break through, and because of the restriction, have the chance to run for a very, very large purse against not that much competition.
I went with Strand of Pearls, kind of an average effort in her debut, but you have to think this horse is more meant for the turf. Mm-hmm. And Phil Schoenthal doesn't really fire with debut runners, but kind of a staggering 30% with second timers. The horse is trained at Fair Hill, and I'm a big believer that training that way produces, mentally and physically sound horses that, happy horses come from Fair Hill. So Strand of Pearls, I think, is coming into this race in good order.
Cheeseburger Phil Schoenthal. That's what I'm calling him now. Cheeseburger Phil.
Does he know that? Should we tell
No,
him that that's what we're calling it now?
I was just gonna start doing it in the winner's circle. Because I figure you're happy in the winner's circle, you're not gonna get mad. But he commented on how much he loved the Rosie's cheeseburger. So
I saw.
Yeah, I thought maybe a good nickname for Phil. But we'll
try to get
happens.
that to stick. Okay.
Yeah. Big positive ROI for him, and oddly enough, real positive ROI in non-graded stakes for Phil as well, and gets Forrest Boyce to stick on board here. Your picks for the Jamestown.
5, 3, 4, and 1.
We go 1.25 miles. We have a lot of these elongated routes, 2 turns. Now the rails are out this final week, so 1.125 miles. I was talking to Jill the other day. The Derby and the Oaks are on the outer course, which was not the case back in 2019. But it seems like with the rails out there, they're having some fun in the race-offs, carting these elongated races. And this is kind of interesting as a maiden race. I have a strong sense of where you might go because of it, but there's a lot of horses in here that have just not gone this distance of ground, and for obvious reasons.
Well, that's the most interesting thing, right? And then you have a couple of horses who are switching over from steeplechase races to the 1.25 miles, and you just have to think that this is the moment that my conditioning edge theory is going to pay off. That these are horses who are proven that they have the stamina to go 2 miles over fences. 1.25 miles should be a breeze for them. Yeah. So I did go with Hale Michigan on top. He's been a very quality racehorse over fences so far, no shortage of stamina. And I think that gives him a clear-cut advantage. I also do want to talk about Hurtgen Forest.
Yeah.
He is one who I've had the pleasure of talking to Arch Kingsley quite a bit about. I mean, they think very highly of this horse. He actually has finished first in it. It was one of those
it's like a training race.
A training race, yes, thank you. Over fences. So that's an interesting thing. So he does know how to find the winner's circle, at least. But he's one that I've watched in the paddock a couple of times this season. He's just so physically immature looking to me. Yeah. He's going to be an absolute monster at 5. He's just like, he's that big gangly kid that still like hasn't filled out and like all of his parts don't go together yet, but once they all do, he's going to be a real athlete. But I know they want this horse, as long as they can get it. This horse just has stamina for days. So I think he's really interesting here too.
We should mention, because that last race, he's very much involved and then kind of gets blown out. The horse that won that race is in the Virginia Derby tomorrow.
Sure. So like there is no shame in finishing behind
by
that
11.
Horse.
Yeah. He just completely dominated that race. And so people were going to see last beaten 17 and go, oh, this horse just can't do it. Like he was getting run away from a horse that would be a short price in here. We'll say that.
And let's not discredit the apprentice allowance here for a horse with his sort of speed. I mean, weights, again, I have a lot of opinions on those, but that I can see the intent here.
A couple good form horses toward the outside too. Both Elusive and Tip Your Hat to That have had pretty decent finishes in their last efforts. Did either one of those get on your radar?
I didn't use them, but this was one of those races that I was halfway through the field and I realized I already liked like 4 horses. So
yeah, as happens sometimes. I think No Slow Mo, John Ortiz's horse, is coming off a nice effort last time. There's a lot of ways to go. Where did you go in that third race?
2, 8, 4, and 11.
The fourth race on the card, 1 mile and 1/16. It's the Brookmead for fillies and mares. Again, these races for Virginia bred, Virginia sired. So do be aware of that. That's why you'll see horses who are not bred in Virginia but are still in these races because they're from Virginia sired runners. Smaller field here of 7 runners, Jess.
This is a tricky one. I'm inclined to stick with Sweet Sandy, who I have maintained that I think has a big race in her off of a layoff. I didn't use her on top today, but I still think this horse has a competitive, maybe even a winning effort in her. Mm-hmm. I went a little more logically here with Tasting the Stars, trying to earn her second stakes win of the season. Last time out, she was 4th against a similar group, but it was kind of a deceptively good effort, I thought. And I mean, she's obviously had some bumps in the road over the course of her career. Her PPs go back to 2019, but she seems good right now.
Yeah, old Fionn Barr in here, who likes to come from way, way back and actually really put in a huge move last time. I thought it was maybe even a winning move, and then it just kind of leveled off a little bit. But it seems like Urban Fairy Tale, Fionn Barr, Tasting the Stars, they've all kind of been taking chances against each other. But like from speed figure standpoints, along with Sweet Sandy, I suppose, they kind of stick out from a few of these runners.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah.
Your picks for the fourth?
Are the 3, 6, 5, and 7.
The fifth race on the program, it's the Camptown 5.5 furlongs, fillies and mares, turf sprinting in here, and field of 8 set to go 5.5. Jess,
this is an interesting race to me.
I thought. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, tell me.
I was going to say, I thought potentially like the claim of the century if it works out for the number 5.
Oh, yeah, really, quite possibly, right? Yeah. And Ollie Figgins does a great job. She's a horse I used for sure.
Yeah.
But I did go with Golden Glow on top. Mm-hmm. taking a swing, a maiden taking a swing against Stakes Company. And that's really an ambitious move. And I don't think that's one you really see from the Arnaud Delacour barn all that often. I think of this as more of a conservative type trainer, not to throw a young horse to the wolves just to try to make a buck.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested. This horse looks like she got some time off from 2 to 3 to kind of develop and mature. So I'm interested to see what she looks like in the paddock.
Yeah, work coming off of bullet work, first time Lasix, and as you said, I mean, really has not done anything.
No, I show no form.
Yeah,
whatsoever.
in her races, but yeah, it's 100% about Delacour, and like I said, I mean, these state bred stakes or state restricted stakes. I mean, you're going to get some horses that you're like, wow, they're just running for 100,000. That's why that claim to me might be just so shrewd, because like this horse has already proven that it can win turf sprinting. I mean, the horse has won 3 out of its last 5 races. To get it for 10,000, and I mean, if they win, obviously they make 6x investment in the first start back. But if they run third, they get their money back. And
it seems like a no-brainer.
It's potentially
I think it was a sharp move.
Potentially a brilliant claim, and Caramano sticks. I thought kind of interesting. And Virginia Beach, we should mention too, who lost to Puppy Monkey Baby last time out, but it's been pretty consistent and pretty consistently good, I thought, for Trombetta.
Yeah, so I agree there. I didn't use her in my initial selections, but I think she's one.
I think she's
really
probably
tough.
the favorite, if in my opinion. But we'll see. Again, we're recording just before Merv's odds come out due to scheduling this week. But your picks for the 5th, Jess?
2, 6, 5, and 7.
Race number 6, we're at 1 1/8 over that turf course, and again, a lot of these elongated routes. I guess 1 1/8's not that long, is it? Does it count as a long? It feels like in modern racing that feels long.
No one goes that far anymore.
Well, we do here, damn it. But now not winners of 2, 16,000 runners, Jess.
I went with the 11 Eye Black, a lot of upside, trying winners for the first time. Only 3 lifetime starts too. It looks like he defeated a pretty legitimate group last time out. It looks like the runner-up came back to win and seems to have found his best stride on turf. Both of those grass races have been good enough.
Yeah, the Kabisky barn has just been red hot since coming here. Popping toward the outside, coming off a maiden win. Just Chitu coming off. Actually, I thought a pretty solid effort against first-time winners, even though on the dirt. And so that's the perplexing part. This horse has now run 2 really good races on dirt and one really stinky one on turfs, but they're back on turf.
Yeah, I'm going to pass. Yeah. I'm going to pass with all of that.
Yeah, actually quite a few in here coming off of good last efforts. Sometimes in non-winners of 2 land, that's not the case, but we have a lot of maiden breakers coming right back in this one. Your picks for the 6th?
11, 12, 7, and 8.
Race 7, I thought a pretty good one. A mile on the inner turf course, optional 40,000 on 2 other than, and a nice field of 11 assembled in here.
This is a really cool group. We have number 6, Ballarox. He was a former graded stakes winner, Breeders' Cup participant.
Grade 1 placed, I think, at Keeneland.
Yeah, like not quite the same horse, obviously, that he was, but I think that sort of record still warrants some consideration and some respect. I did go with number 3, Gold Money on top. He's really turned into an entirely different horse since switching to the turf. Lightly raced, kind of going for his 3rd straight win here. I like his speed. He does his best running when he kind of gets forwardly placed. And I think he'll be a big front running threat here. I think he has a little company to his inside, but
yeah, we've looked at so many races this week, because I think what do we have? 12, 11, and 12. I think are the 3 days. I was trying to remember when Huge Bigley was in, if it was before this one or coming up later in the card. But you might just get a sense of maybe how flattered that race is, just because you get to see that one come back. I did want to mention Cheyenne's Colonel, who comes out of the English B race last week. I thought Cheyenne's Colonel was going to go to the front. Instead, literally was last. Most of the way around, but never got distance from. That was a salty group.
That was a salty group.
4.5. I mean, was basically 4 lengths behind the entire way.
I didn't use him, but again, how much do you like that last race? I do think it's a pretty quick turnaround as well. I try to steer clear of those in most instances, but some upside there. Second start off of a layoff, that quick turnaround, second off a layoff, I like.
Yeah, Rohrbacher comes into this race in great turf form. Again, I thought just kind of an interesting. Ballarox, I'm curious to see how much gets bet, just because obviously the form is not what it once was, and but the name might still carry some panache,
And the earnings. I mean, even if you don't know that much, you're going to look at that and see that he's made some bank.
Made more than me, that's for damn sure. Your picks for the 7th?
3, 6, 8, and 11.
The 8th race on the card at 1 3/16, fillies and mares in a big field here of 14 going 1 3/16, which I'm, as an announcer, like really jazzed about. Like that just sounds fun to me.
As a pedigree nerd, this is also a race I am really jazzed about. There are some pedigrees in this race. I went with number 8, Be Up on Top. What an impressive female family. Her dam's a half sister to Bricks and Mortar, who was the best horse in the world for a hot minute there. And I thought she showed some real ability in her debut. It was a good effort. Her subsequent starts have been a little bit average, but I liked that first race. And Kitten by the Sea. That's who she caught last time out. I know that one ran at Saratoga recently. I'm really curious to see how she did.
Yeah, this was, I thought, an intriguing race. Shug's got Island Treasure, who won pretty early in the career and has been, those optional 80s in New York are pretty tough. I'm curious to see what coming down here, if that wakes this one up a little bit, because the speed figures have remained pretty good. Also, Aram, who was a debut winner here, I don't think that was the best maiden special weight. So I'm a little shy on Aram. The number didn't come back all that great either.
I was as well. I liked her performance that day, but kind of subsequently, it really hasn't held up that well.
Yeah, Be Up and My Sweet Story for Correas. His horses have been running pretty darn well here as well. Graham Motion's got Lachine, who's a winner.
I like her a little bit.
I figured that might enter. I mean, honestly, the first time against winners was not too bad.
No, and that maiden win was pretty stylish.
Yeah, a super intriguing 8th race in my opinion, and it starts the late pick 5 too. So, and obviously, so we don't have a carryover provision here, so they're going to pay out the late pick 5 whether it's 3, 4, or 5 or how tough it is. But I think a tough first leg for that sequence. Your picks for the 8th, Jess?
8, 10, 3, and 9.
9th race on the card, late pick 4, and it's 2-year-old maidens at a mile on the turf course. And again, field size and no shortage today. Great Britain, I wanted to ask you about that one. Not one that, English Channel, I know you like, Graham Motion, I know you like. They didn't pay a whole lot for this one, and the debut was not good. Did this horse end up on your radar at all?
Right on top. Yeah. So the English Channel, no, here.
No, that's why
this isn't one of those instances where I would look at the price tag and think this was a budget horse. The English Channel is a fascinating horse because they are so useful, but you have to kind of be a little patient with them.
Yeah.
They don't always hit the ground running as 2 or 3-year-olds. Sometimes you do need to let them develop. They're not big. These are not horses that are going to really show themselves in an impressive manner as a yearling at an auction. They're little and they look a little bit common, but they're just all little racehorses. I like Great Britain a lot here. I also really like the female family. Ruth Ariane was a really nice race mare, grade 1 winning millionaire, and has been a really nice producer as well. So there's a little precocity in the pedigree that I think kind of compensates for maybe the slower developing English Channel part of it. And the experience edge, I think, gives him a little advantage over some of the debut runners.
Yeah, I got to figure right to that one's inside is a motion horse. It's a first timer and a Stidham first timer, and Tiger to Remembered inside that one. I have to think we've seen both those barns, their first timers get bet this meet. I think their names just carry a lot of weight here.
They sure do.
And performance, by the way, they've had good performance too. Stidham hasn't been as sharp as past years. This has been a little tougher year for that barn.
I also really like She's Like Thunder. This one I thought has run really well. I've been dying to see this horse around 2 turns, and I get my wish.
Yeah. Ferris Allen sprinted the horse a couple times, and both solid efforts. One was in that Jackknife race. Jackknife kind of came back and just threw the anchor out there in early stretch.
So Jackknife looks to me like she looks.
You commented on this in the paddock,
that she went through a little bit of a growth spurt between her first race and her second race. Like, she didn't look bad. I'm not saying that but she looks like she lost a little weight. And with kind of young horses, they go through these growth spurts, they lose some weight, they look a little iffy, and then it all comes back together.
Yeah, that's why I always tell people, we do these preview shows in advance. We want to give you just a general scoop of the card, but Jess and I are going to change our opinions, A, based on what you see in the paddock, what you see from their behavior, also B, what we're going to see from the prices. So always recommend tuning into the paddock show 14-ish minutes before post time. It depends on, there's been a few times where I look over to be like 12 minutes post. I'm like, oh crap, they're not even halfway over to it's a long walk across that Colonial dirt.
It is.
Yeah. Your picks for the 9th.
12, 3, 10, and 11.
The 10th race starts the late pick 3. It's the Edward Evans Stakes for 3-year-olds and up at a mile over the inner turf course, and a field of 8 slated to go in here. Some familiar names and horses we've seen around these Colonial parts for a little bit, but where'd you land here, Jess?
I landed with the 1 Passion Play, much the best last time out, looking for his second stakes win in a row. I think he's a logical selection here. I like a couple of long shots with him. I think he'll be a pretty short price, but he's come back off the layoff in really good condition.
Yeah. The fractions here at Colonial, it seems like overall the fractions have been hotter than I think people would normally assert. I think the course is played when it's firm is played pretty fast. And so 47-2 looks like a solid enough pace, but I thought it was a pretty relaxed pace that one had, but they were way clear pretty much of everybody else. I mean, For Love Country was, I think, 6 lengths ahead of everybody else back there. So, I mean, it was a dominant performance, but there's other speed in this race, at least dirt speed with American Dubai for Diodora, who we see, I think, for the first time here this season. This one's been keeping some solid company, but on dirt. This is just a different beast on grass. Never run on grass, this horse.
Sort of a big question mark, right? Not enough of a turf pedigree for me to really be that interested. I'm going to pass on this one.
Your picks for the Edward Evans?
They are 1, 4, 3, and 7.
The 11th race starts the late daily double. It's the Punchline Stakes for 3-year-olds and up at 5.5 furlongs. So we are turf sprinting in a field of 7 runners set to go. Boldor, who we saw earlier this meet in the Just Might race, shows up here. I got to think that one's going to get a fair bit of support, but there's some nice runners that showed up for this one.
Do you remember Punchline?
Do I remember Punchline, the horse?
Yes.
No.
He was great. That's all. I got very excited when I saw the name of this race, and I went, is this named after Punchline? Like the Punchline I knew, and it was. And I
thought the Love Sign race was named after our actual Love Sign in the infield. So
you're having an educational summer. Punchline was everything good about horse racing. He was this hard-knocking old timer that ran for 1 million years and like made $1 million the old-fashioned way. He was great fun. Yeah.
I just thought this one on paper looked like kind of a 3.5 horse race. It looked like,
I went with Boldor on top here. He seems very logical. He really didn't have, I think, the best trip in the Daha Stakes either. And I mean, just effective on both dirt and turf. Which, as we're watching the weather, you don't know what the weather is going to do. If this race gets rained off, he becomes a really interesting contender too.
Yeah, if I remember right, there was kind of a long inquiry in that last race, the Daha Stakes, and I remember Michelle having to sweat it out because allegedly kind of came over into Boldor, and so as you said, not the smoothest of trips, and he's run here a couple of occasions. I remember on opening, it might have been. I don't think it was opening night, but it was opening season here at Colonial, and won very, very nicely. Was pretty impressive. So, your picks for that 11th race?
6, 5, 7, and 8.
We close out the season going a mile on the turf, and as in Colonial Downs fashion, we close it out with a big old field of 12, going the Rata ground. Non-winner of 2. This feels like the right kind of race to close it out.
It really does, and it seems fitting to me to select the all-time winning trainer and the all-time winning jockey at Colonial Downs to take the last race of the season. So I went with number 7, Just Pick One, trying winners for the first time, an angle I love in these non-winners of 2 races. I also like he's stretching out to 2 turns, going back on the turf. He has a ton of stamina in his pedigree. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he really excels going along.
Yeah, only ran on the turf that one time. It wasn't a bad effort. It was bad. No, it was fine. I think people were expecting that. It was fine.
It was fine.
How long did you hold the eye on that one? I got to check. I was excited to see Tim Shoe's only run 2 here, and he's won both of them. One of those is Sunny Me Dream, who shows back up here. Another one who won at a very, very short price last time. I always am a little leery of horses coming off short price ones just because they're supposed to win. I mean, the bettors obviously think they lay over the field from just a comparative standpoint. But your picks for the 12th and final, Jess?
7, 1, 6, and 10.
Who's the 10? Hachacha?
Hachacha.
Coming off a 98 length defeat.
Yes. Kathleen O'Connell. Yes, I had to pick a 4th horse here.
Well, and to be fair, if you go back, that effort was obviously awful, but it was so bad that like you almost have to think something was up, because if you go back to the previous 2 turf races at Gulfstream, which were in the spring, they were both probably
were okay.
They probably win this race, or at least they're competitive in this race.
And he gets a little class relief. I think he looks pretty well meant here.
Sometimes a really bad effort, all it does is get you a bigger price next time.
That's it.
Yeah. All right, Jess. Well, that's it for us as well. We appreciate you guys tuning in all throughout the season at Colonial Downs, and had a lot of fun. 21 days of racing going to be in the books, and hopefully see you guys all back next year, everything permitting. So, Jess, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you guys back whenever we see you back.